Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. As of late, I've had several people reach out to me to ask if they should grade certain books that have become hot. And in this video, we're going to break it down. Stay tuned. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of examples. And we are going to get things started off with one that is incredibly popular. It was thrust into the spotlight during the Super Bowl. It is Secret Wars issue number 5. And folks are very excited about this, very excited about this. And the question is this a book that should be graded? Let me go ahead and make this a little bit larger. We are actually using Go Collect for this analysis. You can see here that there are not a ton of copies of this book out there that have been graded, at least by CGC. There are 57 Universal Blue labels. There are a total of 66 overall, and that includes 8 that are signed and 1 qualified. So not a ton of copies out there. 45 of those Universal Blue labels are actually a 9.8, and according to Go Collect has an FMV of $130. But let's go ahead and drill down on this one to see what has happened with this book. You can see here from the drawing on the left-hand side that the value of this book has skyrocketed as of late. The most recent price, that's a little out. Oh, that's the average. The most recent price for this book was probably north of $250 is my guess. I need to see whether this transaction here was actually complete. This was a best offer somebody put out there for $325. I don't know if the transaction went through, but the one before that, a couple of days before, was $245. So book has definitely taken off. But when you look at the data over here on the right-hand side, you can see on average, this book had a value at a year at just $70. Its 90-day average has taken off to $149, which is also the 30-day average. So this is a book that has suddenly gotten hot. But when you look at the data, you can see exactly what I mean. This book is going for, a few $100, but prior to that, you can see 45, 35, 46, 33. That's how this book was performing. Going back a little bit in time, 33, 52, 56. This was not a book that people were readily rushing out to buy and to spend big money for. This thing was sub $100, sub $75 even for a long period of time, but has suddenly gotten hot. So the question is, do you get this book graded? It's a question of what are you going to do with the book, right? If you plan to sell this book, take that shot on goal. Take the shot on goal. Try to get your 9.8. You're going to have to turn around and sell it because in my opinion, the value of this book is going to come down. It is going to come back down to earth. Potentially very soon, once the excitement wears off. So if your goal is to try to make some money, and you have a 9.8, you have a candidate for a 9.8, send it in. And you should be prepared to turn around and sell it, or else you're going to be stuck with a book that is like worth $30. If you are a buyer, I would urge caution. If you are a buyer, I would urge caution with this one. Let's look at what's happening with the 9.6. 9.6, there are 10 of them on the census. Not a lot of activity, not a lot of activity for this one at all. FMV is set at $55. The 1 year, the 90-day, and the 30-day are all basically set at $60. So let me see. I'm losing control of the screen. Let's see. All right, so let's go back and look at this. Basically, not a whole lot of sales for the 9.6. I'm guessing not a whole lot of sales for the 9.4. The action is really around the 9.8. My guess is that we are potentially going to see an influx of these books popping up, being submitted to be graded. So we may actually see an uptick in what's happening there. But again, if you are trying to sell, time it right. If you're going to roll those dice, time it right. You better have a 9.8, do a pre-screen. But again, if you happen to be a buyer, this is one that I would not touch because I don't think that there is going to be any long-term value with this book. If the historical performance is any indicator of what could happen in the future, I would definitely urge caution. So let's go ahead and take a look at another example. This next one is also in the spotlight. This also is in the spotlight because of what is happening with the movies and TV shows. This is Daredevil issue number 227. And this is actually the start of the Born Again story arc by Frank Miller. And this one is hot because of the upcoming TV show of the same name featuring Daredevil and Wilson Fisk. So this book is in the spotlight because it's the start of the story arc for which the TV show is named. I don't know whether that's substantive enough. But let's take a look at the data. So there are 621 universal copies of this comic out there, a total of 710 overall. That includes 87 signature, 2 qualified. All right, so let's go ahead and dig in. We can see that when we look at the 9.8, there are 224 out there graded, has an FMV of $325. So it appears that there is a little bit more weight behind this one. You can see graphically that this book had a massive spike up to $1,000 back in 2022. I wonder if that's when they originally announced the Born Again show was going to be coming. I wonder if that's part of it, combined with the pandemic stuff. But $1,000 for a 9.8. And since that time, the value of this book has dropped. It dropped by April to $273. The next high watermark was again in April of 2023 for $349. And now in February of 24, the average price is $269. On the right-hand side, you can see FMV is $325, 30-day average $270. Most recent sale in February, end of February, $270 to sell. Before that, $150. Before that, $200, $169. Again, I don't know if this is, I mean, maybe this is one that you grade, right? If you have a really nice copy and you want to send it in and you think that it could be a 9.8, there may be enough cushion here, depending upon how much you pay for the book when you factor in acquisition costs, shipping to and fro, clean press. There may be some nice cushion here. My guess is that the value of this book will come down as well. When, who knows, right? It could be sustained for a period of time just because it's going to be a while before we see the Daredevil show. But my guess is that the value will come down. Let's back up and let's see how this book has performed. Yeah, still around $280 or so, $300. I see a couple in there. So again, if you have a 9.8 or you want to do a pre-screen, you may have a good shot there. Let's look at the 9.6. 9.6, 165 of them on the census, FMV $130. Let's see how this book is performing. FMV 130, 30-day average 169. What was the most recent sale? 129. But then you look at the sales and there haven't really been any recently. All of this data that I'm looking at here is from 2023. And the numbers are below $100, 89.70, 80.70, 89.75. So I don't know if this hasn't been updated or if there's something else wonky going on with the data. But again, it might not pay to actually send in a copy that could be a 9.6 or less based upon the data that we are actually seeing here in the system. 9.4, let's look at that real quick. Yeah, let's see. The most recent, there was a copy that sold in January of this year for $65. I guess that's the average. But again, the data down here is out of date. May need to send a message over to Go Collect to see if they can take a look at the data, because that looks a little wonky. But again, unless you have a 9.8 of this, I don't know that I would actually take shot on goal for getting that copy graded. So we're going to take a look at one additional book here. This one also is in the news because of a pending TV show, movie. This is the first appearance of the Thunderbolts. And of course, there's a Thunderbolts movie that is going to be coming out in 2025. So this is a one like the last two. I guess I have copies of all these. I have copies of all these. Haven't sent any in to be graded because I don't have any that are 9.8 worthy. But this one has been sitting in a bin for consideration for some time. But let's go ahead and look at how this book is performing. There are a lot. Wow. Well, a lot in comparison to what we just looked at, but 3,801 Universal Blue Label copies out there, a total of 3,923 overall. There are 865 on the census at a 9.8, which has a fair market value of $325. Let's go ahead and drill into the data here. And you can see on the left-hand side graphically, it's a downward trend. Generally speaking, it's a downward trend for this book. Back in May of 21, it was going for $1,000. Next high water mark is August of 22 at $841. Next one, $316 in November of 23, and now average sits at $298. The most recent sale for this book, $307, and at the end of February, mid-February, $268. 320 was the one before that. So again, if you have a really nice copy of this and you want to send it in at a pre-screen, I could see taking shot on goal. It seems like there is enough cushion there. Oh, you know, let's back up. Let's look back up and let's see how this book has performed historically. So let's back up a little bit. I want to see some individual sales data here. So 325, 286, 325, 277. That's going back to late 23. Backing up, I like to look at the individual sales, not just the averages with the graph. So again, there could be some substance there. There could be a little bit of substance there to warrant sending this one in at a 9.8. The 9.6, there are 1,100 copies of this on the census. Let's look at how this one is performing. FMV is 150, 30-day average 130. Again, similar downward decline in this one. Most recent sale at the end of 23 was $120. The sale before that, 76. The one before that, 105. 95 before that. So I don't know if I would send this one in potentially if at a 9.6. And I say that again because you want to have enough cushion there to be able to absorb the ebbs and flows of a book. And if this book is at its high water mark, kind of sort of now in terms of awareness because of the Thunderbolts movie, what's going to happen when the Thunderbolts movie has come and gone? Potentially the value will drop back down. So with all of these books, Secret Wars 5, Daredevil 227, Hulk 449. I can see making magic at the 9.8, but outside of that, I kind of sort of struggle. So with that, we are going to go ahead and wrap this video up on it. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. If you want to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.
This thing on. Mic check. I just want to make sure y'all can hear me clearly. Yo, should you practice art or should art be your practice? I had a question, so I asked it, not to anyone specifically, but to my inner God, you know, the one that's gonna be a master, the one that's more than a rapper, the one that's an educator, the one that seeks enlightenment. He travels with concepts, he's got the mindset expansive. He understands that it's time combined with travel and concepts makes his mind convex. Sort of like when you look at a brain scan, straight off meditation, we was concaving until we had that eternal dialogue that created our dialect. Now we in distinct rooms of pure souls having them conversations, synergy and combination.